Welcome back to the Dopest Show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer. This is Sasha. I spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but have been off heroin since April 9, 2010. Got a lot of stories about the stupid stuff I did to get put in prison, the crazy stuff that happened while I was in prison. God forbid you end up in prison. You don't have to make some of the same mistakes I made. So, in prison, you're cautious with the friends you make. By the way, this is one of my favorite, craziest stories about an individual. So, I'd been at the medium security for roughly a year, and I'm standing in pill line. See, if you take medications, you have to stand in this really long line that takes forever, 30 to an hour. You have to stand in it. And this guy comes up to me. He's about 6'1", 230 pounds, got a good gut to him with a big old beard. He looks kind of like, he had a beard like Abraham Lincoln, but he looked like Islam Makhachev, the UFC fighter, looked just like him. And he shook my hand. He's like, Spencer, it's so good to see you. And I grabbed his hand tight because I don't know who he is and if he's planning on doing something. Like, I was a little nervous, somebody approaching me. People usually don't just approach you like all up in your face like that. And I'm like, do I know you? He said, it's me. And I'm going to call him Dicky. I ain't going to say, it's me, Dicky. And I said, what are you doing with the beard? And I actually grabbed his beard. I pulled it. I said, are you pretending to be a Muslim? And he looked to the left, he looked to the right. You know those people that whisper, but they're not really whispering. They're talking just as loud as I'm currently talking, but they whisper like this, and everybody can still hear it. He said, looks back and forth, well, yeah, I'm not a Muslim outside of here, but I'm Muslim in here because who messes with a Muslim in prison? I'm like, dude, I used to bring you hot dogs like every day. A 7-Eleven hot dogs, that's got to be like the worst type of pork, okay? And he's like, yeah, well, And I mean, a couple people heard what he was saying, but anyway, learned that basically he was doing the Muslim thing for protection. Now let me tell you about Dicky. The first time I met Dicky, that's a whole other story I'll go into another day. It was actually an awful day. I had just dropped a bunch of acid, and I rode with my friend over to their house. It was a crazy story. But let me give you a background. This is what my buddy, we're going to call Denny, what he told me. I don't know the full truth about it. If this is really how it happened. But this is what Denny told me. Denny told me, yeah, he said, these three crazy brothers and their old dad, he says, they had the mom of the family's rich, and they were living in Northern Virginia. And basically, the dad quit his job, just became a drunk, and the brothers were smoking rock and shooting H and just being absolutely degenerates. They are degenerates. And the mom got them all together one day and said, listen, there's this really nice place called Roanoke, Virginia. I haven't been there, but I've read a lot upon it, and it sounds really nice. I bought you a house there. I have bus tickets, y'all are leaving tomorrow, and sent them to that house. Well, how I met Dicky basically was they lived in that house, which the house I guess was in their name. They lived in it for about a year or so, completely trashed it, sold it for about $100,000. Each of the four people, the dad and the three sons, split up the money, $25,000 apiece. Instead of doing something intelligent, like, okay, buying a Hyundai with a 10-year warranty, you could have got one of those back then for like $12,000 or something like that. They all got what I like to call a Yo MTV Raps car. Okay, a Yo MTV Raps car is basically what would have been a $100,000 car that's got 100,000 miles on it, so they only paid $10,000 for the car. They wanted to look as fly and flashy as they could. Not a one of them had a car after 1 year from when they got it. But they spent so much on the car, they all bought a car, and they were just living in hotels and motels. They didn't get a place to stay. They were just rocking out there. So the first time I met the one brother, see, they're two twins. Dicky has a twin brother who used to look identical to him, but he stabbed him in the eye with a pencil, and he has a 2.25 eye, one that just is crazy, okay? And then they've got another brother, I'm not going to say his name, but his name is one name. I'm going to say, okay, let's say this. His name is John, but he tells people his name is like Rajon, okay, to sound more ethnic or something. Because I got him to spell his name one day, because it's like, how do you spell it? Because I wanted to say it right, and I'm like, you're adding that little thing for flair, aren't you? He looked like a little character out of a bad 90s sitcom. He was about 5'5", had too much hair, parted right down the middle, I'm trying to think of a cartoon to compare it to, but the two brothers, they were always clean shaven. That's why I said I didn't even know he could grow a beard when I saw him. So the first day that I meet them, the one brother has a girlfriend, and I drive up with the guy Denny, and the girl, it's Southeast Roanoke. It's crazy. It's a white ghetto. It's crazy. There's always something's always going on one of the blocks. So I'm telling you, it's absolutely mental there. She's in a fight right in front of the house with another girl. Okay, I'm gonna call her Candy. Okay, that's what I call all of them. But anyway, she gets in a fight with this girl, and her dentures. She's only like in her late 20s. Her dentures fly out of her mouth on the ground, and their dad goes, Candy, pick up your teeth before somebody runs them off and tries to pawn them. And I about rolled out laughing. That was the funniest thing. This is like my introduction to them. And he was serious. People in Southeast, people are dumb and crazy enough to go try to pawn a set of dentures. Okay, that was like my introduction to these people. Now, he had a girlfriend, his twin brother had a girlfriend that made sense, about his age. They were both addicts. The younger brother was 28, and he had a 14-year-old girlfriend. She's like, no, I think she was 15 or 16, but she looked underdeveloped. And I always had a real issue with that. I mean, I was only 17 at the time, but it wasn't right. You know what I mean? She went on to, be a call girl, her bad stuff about that. But anyway, she was underdeveloped, had a retainer, talked with a lisp. I mean, it was not a good scene. Now, Dicky had a girlfriend that was probably 40 to 50 years old. She was probably about 80 to 90 pounds with hard lines in her face from a life of drinking and smoking every day and doing drugs. How people say don't make a face too long, it'll get stuck that way. Her face got stuck that way. It got stuck in this mean scowl. But you could tell she used to be good looking. And she was about 80, 90 pounds, but had 20-pound implants. Okay, blonde-headed girl. And Dicky showed me pictures of this before we went. And he's like, look how hot she was. And I'm like, yeah, too bad you couldn't catch her then. And she was just awful. Just a mean, hateful, awful person. The only redeeming feature about her, I guess, was her big flotation devices. I always did them really good. See, when I met them, they had their money from selling that house. So they all got them a Yo MTV Raps car, and they spent $10,000 on that, but they had $15,000 left to blow, and they blew it. They went whoop, 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 whoop over the next 3-4 months. Oh, Lord. And then after that was gone, that's when they went back to being devious. So they'd always show up. Side note, they'd always show up. They'd tell me, let's say I was selling H. I mostly sold blow, but let's say I was selling H. They said they wanted 10. They wanted a bundle. Okay, now keep in mind all this stuff put me in prison. Not glorifying anything, nothing like that. Okay, they'd show up and they'd say they wanted 10. Okay, let's say I sold 1 for 20. I sold 10 for 150. Okay, they'd show up with $130 and be like, oh, what happened to it? Oh, what happened? So-and-so must have stole it. Some story, and she would literally do this, which Satan, the Aryan Brotherhood guy, I've gotten other stories. I told him this story, and he clowned Dicky about it. But she'd go, baby, what are we going to do? And she'd say it just like that, and he's like, oh, I don't know, baby. Oh, I don't know. And she talks like this, and she pouts. I'm not exaggerating. I can't explain. Settle down, girl. It's all good. But it's literally of that absurdity level. It was literally that childish, like a child in a grown, aged woman's body. Okay, now there was a 3-state bulletin on these people because what they would do is, this was their scheme. Most of the time they bought stuff from me, they paid with prepaid Visa gift cards. So here's the scam. Here's how they got a 3-state bulletin. When they were in Northern Virginia running around there, they would go in a CVS and they would buy them. They'd get 2 of the hand carts full of the most expensive stuff they could put in there. There was some filter that was $50 that was real thin. They'd load it up with $500 of that, rechargeable batteries, load it up with as many as they possibly could. And then they'd run out, jump in their car, which they had a piece of paper taped over the license plate, and then they'd drive off. Okay, then they'd drive to another town, possibly another state, go to a Walmart. They'd say, we bought this, we want to return it. Now, Walmart won't give you a return if you don't got a receipt, but what they'll do is they'll give you store credit. So they gave them store credit, usually like $300-400. They take that store credit and they would buy Visa gift cards. So they bring me $300 of Visa gift cards a day for like probably months straight, and I'd give them 50 cents on the dollar because I can't rig up with Visa gift cards. So I'm giving them $150 of stuff for $300 of Visa gift cards. That's how that whole deal worked. But they were doing this like a lot, like everywhere. They were ripping off everybody, man. And they just, it's a crazy story. Now, how did Dicky get put in prison? Okay, now he was in jail, and apparently his awful aged girlfriend, when he was in jail, kept a job, and she kept the use down to pretty much nothing, was waiting on him to get out and saved a whole bunch of money up. Well, she got a big tax return. Well, they got a big tax, well, she got it, but they got a big tax return. Now, see, from there, they know people from Northern Virginia where they lived up there before. They met somebody who was hooked up in New Jersey, I believe it was. Well, they took that tax return and they invested it to become H dealers. Now, think about this, kids. Before you end up watching Blow or Belly in one of these movies and think about doing it, think about Dicky, okay? Because that's what's going to happen to you more than likely. And today's more dangerous than it ever was. So, I mean, definitely don't do that. No, we ain't done, girl. I'm just getting a little animated. It's all good. But anyway, so they got the tax return and they went up to New Jersey. Within 2 weeks, the feds were on to them and watching them. 2 months after he'd been a dealer, which he was dealing a good bit of it, 2.5 months, the feds swooped in and charged him federally. He ended up getting like 5 years in federal prison, I think it was, or something like that. He'd only been selling it for 2 months. Okay, he was not cut to be a dealer. He was just a notorious junkie, and that's all he talked about. Ended up in the cell with him, him, and this other guy. This guy who was from California, who was the former Serrano shot caller at Lone Pot Medium. He was for real dude. Like, he looked like, you know those guys, Fast and the Furious, Hector, the bald-head Mexican with the mustache? He's built kind of like that. Like, you know, stocky, had some muscle, but, you know, had some gut too. Tattoos everywhere, and of course, bald head, clear face, and a big old mustache. I mean, that's like the Cholo get up, like the whole look. He had it down, and he'd always talk. Just side note, he'd always talk about how hard he grew up. I grew up hard. Everything's hard, but I'm humble. I'm so humble, and he'd brag about how he was humble for like hours a day. I don't think he knew what that word meant. You don't brag about being humble. Humble's something somebody says about you. You don't talk about, well, I'm so humble, you know. But anyway, we ended up in that cell with them, and Dicky's gone like mental, like he's gone crazy. He showed me these books by this dude who talks about there's a hidden reptilian agenda, that all the people in major power aren't humans. They're reptile aliens that are shapeshifters. And all kinds of anti-Semitic stuff, he said, which he is a Muslim. And in the cell next to us, it was funny because that was where his arch nemesis was. His arch nemesis was this little gay fella who was about 5 foot tall, 240 pounds, who was Jewish. And the little gay fella who's next door, I told you about the drug program. They'd hold people accountable. Then you'd have to sit in the timeout chairs depending on the punishments. He got up there to basically, the drug program is a program of people telling on each other. You're supposed to hold 3 people accountable a month, and they give menial punishments. It doesn't add extra time or sentences. It's just a BS way to do the program. I paid senior peers off so I didn't have to do it. But anyway, he got up there at the list, and I was like, oh shoot, he's going to hold a few people accountable. The little fella, and he unrolls this thing, and it's like a scroll, like one of those, you know, Egyptian scrolls. He held like 30 people accountable, but they like had these little wars holding each other accountable, and he was like brainwashed. He thought like that lizard people stuff. He thought that his people were like bad or something. Like he was out there with this stuff, talking about that. Now he was doing the fake Muslim thing. So Ramadan is a time, baby girl. Ramadan is a time when people of Islamic faith fast during the day. In sunlight hours, they don't have food. They don't drink water. Most of them don't. It's really, you know, a thing that people. It's part of it. He's not really a Muslim, okay, and I'll get to that in a second. But my sell it, the Serenian I told you about, would mess with him. He's like, yo, Dicky, I got this burrito here, but it's got pepperoni in that, and you know you can't eat that. And plus, you're on Ramadan. He's like, no, wait. And he looked out. He'd open the door, look back and forth. He'd go in the corner, and like, you know how like a little gerbil, like a little mouse, a little rat. He went in the corner with his back to the door. Like, if this is the corner of a room, he's got his head in the corner, just munching it down. But he's pretending to do Ramadan. So here's the thing. Here's how he definitely wasn't observing none of that. First off, he was doing drugs every day. But second off, I used his house as a drop spot. I felt really bad for them. You know, it's kind of funny because like I was like 17 and 18 years old at this time. And he was like, I believe he was 28 at the time, and his aged girlfriend was probably, I mean, she looked like she was 55, 60, but she was probably about 40, 45. She's probably 45. But anyway, I used their house as a drop spot. See, they had a duplex, and they had the top part. They didn't have no cable. They didn't have any hot water. They had a TV that had antennas on it. It got like 4 channels, and they had Christmas lights on year round in the room, and they had roaches that you could see in the place. And I asked him after I got to prison, I said, why'd y'all have those Christmas lights on year round? He says, well, I don't know. It just made it look more festive. I'm going to say, you know why I thought they were? He's like, why? I said, I thought that was to keep the roaches off y'all when you slept. He's like, what? No. I swear that's what I thought. I thought they had the Christmas lights on to keep the roaches from getting on them. Okay, the duplex, it had one room with like broken wood and like just trash and stuff. Then they had their room, which was just a bed, a desk, and this TV with the antennas. And there was a bathroom in the back. Their kitchen, you could not see the floor on everything. You could not see 1 inch of floor. It was all, you know, trash bags. All you could see is black trash bags, one end to the other. And I'm using their house as a drop spot. So when I use their house as a drop spot, what that means is I'll have like 5 people meet me at their house. Boom, 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 all at once. When I was selling stuff, I wouldn't sell it out of my place, so I used their house as that. They all get in, they all get out. If anybody was to call anybody on anything, I'm long gone by then, because I had 5 people come in like a 15-20 minute period. Okay, and that was like Friday nights, Saturday nights. You know, college kid, it was rolling in, and I'd give them, you know, anywhere from $30-50 for doing it, just for me being over there for 20 minutes. I figured, shoot, I'm giving them this. I'm waiting on people to get here. I went to see what they had in their refrigerator. I walked across this ocean of trash bags. Some type of critter went from one end. Oh! They're like, oh, it's probably a mouse. I was like, oh. Opened the refrigerator. They didn't have nothing. They didn't have nothing in the refrigerator. I felt really bad about that. Because like I've lived in my car before, been down on money. That's ultimately what pushed me further into dealing. Was like it became a matter of, are you going to have a place to sleep tonight, or are you going to have something to eat tonight? See, you know, which couch are you going to have to surf at? You know what I mean? When I first was doing that, basically what I'd do is I'd go to one of my people who was buying something from me, and I'd try to stay there a little too late, and then I'd be like, well, do you mind if I crash here? So as much money as I had, I never had credit. Buddy. No, sir. Buddy, go. That's little buddy. Sorry. Distracted. I got ADD, OCD. But anyway, buddy, scoot. Sasha, you stay here. Oh, Sasha, girl, back up. I do apologize. This is going well. Down, girl, down. Okay, so anyway. Oh, Lord. Done got that up and off and everything. We're going to continue this. Sorry, I'm going to keep on talking about this. So anyway, I'm so sorry about that. Y'all got to see little buddy, though. But anyway, I felt bad for him, so I'd go to 7-Eleven, and I'd get him hot dogs. Hot dogs cost $1, you know, and they didn't have anything to eat. So I'd bring them like 3 or 4 hot dogs every time I came to see him, and he was so appreciative, you know. He was always stealing and stuff from everybody else, but he loved me. Like, that's, whenever I showed up at the prison, he was like so happy because I was like a hero to him. Because I mean, they were off scamming people, ripping people off, stealing stuff, middleman and deals. And I'd show up with these hot dogs. I mean, they looked like they hadn't eaten. When I knew him, he was about 155 to 165 pounds. When I saw him in prison, he was 230 pounds. He'd been eating good then, okay? Mom put money on his books. His mom loved him. She just wasn't putting up with that stuff. You know, I mean, can't blame her. I mean, that's his choice. But, you know, the transformation, seeing him 230 pounds with a giant beard, I didn't recognize him at first. So, and he had all kinds of nicknames. See, Dicky kind of sounds like his name a little bit. And people call him the Sereno guy. You know, I don't talk too vulgar stuff on here, but it's pretty funny. He call him Sick Dicky, Suck a Dicky, and stuff like that. And, you know, Dicky was what the one guy, Bobby Joe, who talked like this, called everybody honey. He couldn't say his name, so he called him Dicky. You know, Dicky. And Bobby Joe's another funny one. But anyway, this is one that this is a story. I know I've done snippets of this before, but this is, there have been like 5,000 new subscribers probably in the past 5 weeks that have not heard about this. And I'm going to do a second video today because this is something that some of y'all have heard. But this is one of my favorite characters because it's that bizarre, it's that wild, it's that outlandish. Like so many little adventures that he had and went on and stuff like that. Off of him, I probably have dozens and dozens of stories for sure, possibly up to 100 stories about him. The stuff he did before, the stuff he did after, and they're all crazy. I mean, I got a story about where they ripped somebody off. The dude showed up at the house. Well, they'd already done up all the stuff they ripped him off for with the money. And the guy starts taking an axe to the wall. And the dad, who's sitting there, dad's a drunk, is like, oh, the axe man. Oh, the axe man, calling him the axe man. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that there's so much stuff I got about them. I'll get a lot more into that. If you like the video, if you've watched it this far, if you think I earned it, press the like button. If not, 21 minutes and 56 seconds of your life in which you will never ever get back. And I'm truly sorry for that, but I hope you did. Y'all have a good one.